Moving on to the next topic, which is the fourth topic of the day, and the topic is old age donors, and for which it would be moderated by Dr. Shankar Sundaran sir and Dr. Chaco Jacob sir from Bangalore, who would introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. Sanjay sir, who is also from Bangalore. Over to you, sir.
At the outset, I would like to thank MCure and also for inviting me to moderate this session along with my guru, Professor Chaco Jacob. Sanjay is one of my sort of proteges. He was with me long ago and is one of the brilliant nephrologists who's dynamic and is quite aggressive. And it will be interesting to hear his story on elderly donors. In fact, my own experience has been that we have quite a few elderly donors. This was 1995 when the Organ Transplant Act was passed. We had a grandfather who was 80 years old, wanted to donate to the grandson. And at that time, grandfather was not considered related donor. It had to go to the authorization committee. The authorization committee, for some reason, because of the so-called scam had occurred, they were very scared and they refused to give permission for the grandfather to donate. And the grandfather actually approached the court and he himself argued, saying that in my tradition, if I die, my grandson actually carries the funeral pyre. I don't want the reverse to occur. So I need to give the kidney and save my grandson. And with a court order, we did the transplant. And the grandfather at 80 donated, and I think at the age of 95, he passed away. And the recipient is still now 30 years, 25 years, still going on well. So I think age per se should not be a problem. I request Dr. Chaco sir also to give some idea on old age donors and his experience before Sanjay talks. Sir.
I think as Sundar mentioned, I think age by itself should not be the single criteria. There are various other reasons why people should maybe considered as expanded donor pool, but certainly age per se should not be the thing. I remember once a 70-something-year-old man wanting to donate to his brother, and what the anesthetist did was he climbed up a flight of stairs. And she said he did better than me, so I think I'll accept him. So I think age per se should not be the criteria as the single criteria to take or not accept somebody as a donor. Anyway, we're interested to hear what Sanjay has to say. So
sir, good to be married to an anesthetist, sir. Sanjay,
over to Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I thank Dr. Sundar sir. He had given a good introduction of mine. I always consider him as one of my first gurus. And I'm really lucky that my guru is there today moderating my talk. And along with the guru of gurus is also there. You know, it's a privilege that you're looked over by your gurus when you are giving your talk. So today I've been asked to talk on old age donors. I had started this old age donation program after, one failure with my ABO incompatible. And what I came to know is over a period after 2-3 transplant that I did of ABO, that one thing, cost is more and you are risking, you don't know which patient will do well, as we had discussed earlier. So I started with old age donor, and the first old age donor that I did was 72 years old. So initially I was a little skeptical because, everywhere beyond 65, they used to say no to the donors. And once I started, now I feel that I should share my experience so that others also come out of their hiatus to take upon these patients to increase the donor pool. Now, one of the reasons we all know why we go ahead for the transplant is that the patient, they develop the survival benefit compared to the patient being on dialysis. The quality of life that we can offer. And the patient, if it is a successful transplant, they have a very active and the fruitful life. There are many instances all of you might have undergone where the patient has had children and are living a happy family life together also. And most important among the thing is that financially, though it looks that transplant is a big thing, but once the transplant sets in and you are doing fine, the monthly expenses of the family significantly comes down. Now, even if you see that there are so many benefits of transplant, but there is reluctance among our patients to go for it. Now it may be multiple factors. One is a nuclear family, so there is no one in the family to donate. There is and among the family members, now the incidence of diabetes is almost 20%. That is 1 in 5 is almost a diabetic. So you tend to find that among your family member, only the person who is ready to donate is either diabetic or hypertensive. And the religious beliefs are also hindering. Usually a staunch Hindu will believe that he should go back to the soil with his organs intact. He doesn't want to lose any part of it. They call it, they don't want to have a defective body when he is going to the God. And the legal hazards, we all know, which are associated, in particular in Karnataka, what we face the difficulties. And last but not the least, the family physicians or those who are treating the family physician, they are not very forthcoming, saying that the cost is more and the outcome is bad. They need to be educated about the outcomes of the transplant. And last one, financially, definitely not rewarding to the nephrologists. Now, if you go by the Westerner data, they believe that there is a 60-40 rule as far as the deceased donor transplantation is considered. So that is how the borderline donors had come into picture. So what is the 60-40 rule? It says that 60% of the kidney donors who undergo transplant, there is deceased, whereas it is the opposite now, and probably the live rate is much more in India. But if you see those who are on the waiting list, 60% of the kidney waiting list is active and 40% is inactive. This is the same in our country also. Over the last 1 year, my blood group A and blood group O has been blocked by 4 patients in each group. They don't accept either, and they don't go for the test. So I'm blocked. About 60% of the patient on the waiting list, they will get a transplant. This is the international standards. Again, in India, it might vary, which again says that 40% who have registered will never go for a transplant, even if they are registered for cadaver. And 60% of the deceased donors are standard criteria, donation which happens. And 40% of the donation is again expanded criteria donor, even in the West. And if you look at the 10-year graft survival, the standard criteria donor has a better compared to the expanded criteria donor. And it is estimated that 60% of the discarded kidneys could be reused. This is the most important thing. And what are the kind of patients that you want to opt for? So as I told you earlier, these are the special kind of transplants which restrict to patients who have problem on the dialysis. You may have the patient who is not doing well on dialysis. He may have malnutrition, inflammation syndrome, 5 to 10% of our patients, they don't do well. And a good number of them, because they are on long-term dialysis, and now older patients are also on dialysis, they tend to develop the axles problem because of diabetes and the long duration of dialysis. And a good number of these patients also have a severe LV dysfunction, which may be uremic only or which may be diabetic associated, but there are no scars when you do the isotope scan. That means when you do transplant to such patients whom you expect not to do well on dialysis, their LV function significantly improves. I have an example where we did a transplant for ejection fraction of 25%, and we had done the isotope scan which showed no areas of scar. And when following transplant, within 4 weeks, his ejection fraction improved to 45%. So these are the special considerations where we can consider the expanded donor program like the old age donors. Now, should we risk the donor for this kind of transplant? Can we behave like a god? Now let us consider these situations. Now, the recipient who is supposed to undergo the transplant, he is the sole breadwinner of the family. And if he dies, what happens to the whole family? If we are very strict that we don't take the old age donors. And many of the times it happens that husband and wife are the only ones in the family. The children are outside the country and probably they are not taking care of their parent. If one among the spouse dies, then literally the other spouse also will go into the problems or, depression, and it will push to the death of that patient also. In such situation where the support is definitely required, in that case, we can think that a spouse might donate even if they are old age donors. Many of our patients will have unfulfilled responsibilities. The child has to be married. There are so many responsibilities and the family has to be set right before he can think that he can go off. And one more important thing that I'm talking about, nowadays you are seeing very young recipients, patients in the age group of 20 and 30. They have donors in the family, like a father or mother may be donating, but you also have grandparents who are willing to donate. Now, when a young recipient, you know what is the longevity of a donation in our country? It is around 10 years, let us say average of 10 years. So a person who is 30 years gets a kidney from parent and gets that kidney to work for another 10 years. So what happens after that when he reaches 40? So we have to think now in long term, because we know the outcomes of the grafts are much better when he started transplant around 20, 30 years back. So let us put a situation, 30-year-old recipient, he has a donor in parents. He also has a donor who is around 65, 70 years and is a grandfather or a grandmother. So in that case, what I'll do, if the grandfather, grandmother is good, I'll probably take that kidney and see to it that it lasts for another 5 to 10 years. And after 10 years, when the patient becomes 40 years, he at least will have the parents to donate or his spouse to donate, so that he lives the full life after having 2 to 3 transplants. Now, when we are talking about these expanded the criteria donors, where I put our old age donors, so can we estimate the risk? Yes, there are certain programs which are available, like Kidney Donor Profile Index. It has now been used extensively in the US, and they use it for both deceased donor program as well as the live donor program. There is also something called as a Ramuzi score. Now they take into effect the various parameters of the donor, and they have a numerical variable. When they add it together, for example, for KDPI, if the value is more than 85, then it is considered as a expanded criteria donor, and usually above 85, they say the donor is not fit for same. Now, does this KDPI work for the India, from the Indian context? Does it fit into our patients? Still, we need to be evaluated or validated. We have not evaluated the same. These are the parameters which are taken in KDPI, where they looked into the age of the donor, sex, recipient sex, donor EGFR. So multiple variables determines the outcome. So if the KDPI score is more than 85, then the patient or the donor is not fit to donate the kidney as per the guidelines. Now, it was very important that when they looked at expanded criteria donation and they did this KDPI scoring, almost 8 to 10% of the donation was rejected because the KDPI was not fitting into it. So this criteria is getting used in US. Still, we in our country, we have not used the KDPI criteria because the concept of expanded donor program has still not caught up. So the same criteria can also be used in our patients with old age donors to see whether they fall into a more riskier category and avoid transplant, or they can be taken up. Now, when do we call a donor to be an old age donor? So as per the US criteria, they take anyone above the age of 60 years as an old age donor. And if you take European criteria, it is above 65 years. In India, we have still not defined, but we still, majority of us feel anyone above the age of 60 years would be considered as an old age donor. Now, it is important because as the age progresses, we know that the GFR tend to decrease beyond the 30 years of age. And presently, I think all of us are using a criteria that a GFR of 80 ml or less, the patient, that donor we don't accept. So this was my paper which got published in Nephrology, where we looked at the South Asian donors, that is all those who are donated kidney in Apollo Hospital, Chennai, and we had around 630 donors. And we looked at, they predominantly were Indian, and we have taken South Asian because few Bangladeshis had come in, and from others, adjacent countries also. So the mean GFR, what we found was, it was around 95 plus or minus 11 ml per minute, which is quite good. And the rate of decline, though the numbers in different age groups, when we split it out, in the later age groups, the number of patients who came in for donation, that is 60 and beyond, was less. That's why we did not publish it. But when we put it at that in that paper, we found that the rate of decline was around 0.5 to 1.2 ml per year, average coming around 0.7. This rate of decline probably is less in our population compared to Western population, probably because the meat-eating population of in our country is little less, or even if they take meat products, the volume that they take is less. So that may be one of the reasons. I am trying to tell you this is, when I show you my slides of my data of around 26 patients, only one patient had a GFR which was less than 80, around 76. Rest all have maintained around 85 plus GFR. So I'll show you that. That was the reason why I wanted to show you this of what we had done in our patients as donor and what we found at the rate of decline. Now, if you look at the published data, now there were two data which came in from Mayo Clinic, and one which was published in Journal of Urology. They found that elderly donors above the age of 55, there was no difference in the graft outcome or the patient survival at 1 and 5 years. And there was no extra morbidity or worsening of blood pressure or renal functions of the donors at 1 year. 1 year is a very short period, I know that. But these are the published data which are there. In the Mayo Clinic, again, they found that the death-censored graft survival, the patient survival, and the graft survival at 3 years was comparable to a related program. But there were a few more data which came out, and they found that the age of the donor was directly proportional to the risk of losing the graft at 5 years. So I will show you our data from the Sugna Hospital, what we have done. So totally till now, I have done around 26 patients, which includes 3 cadavers. That is, the cadaver kidney had an age more than 65 years. So if you look at the female to male ratio, the female donors were much more compared to the male donors, as usual in our transplant, how it happens. Now, if you look at the average age of all the donors, it was around 71.8. Now, those who were between 60 to 65, around 8 cases, 65 to around 70, around 5 plus 3 I have put because 3 were cadaver donors. And more than 70, I have done 4 cases. 80 years above, I have done 3 cases. If you look at the oldest age in my series is around 84 years. And the oldest recorded in the world is around 85 years and 3 months. Now, average creatinine of the donors at the time when I decided to take them was around 1.1. And average GFR, you see, it was around 91 ml per minute of these patients. And average time post-transplant now, after the transplant, is around 61 months for live donation, 49 months for cadaver donation. If I put together, it comes to around 50 months altogether. So almost 5 years of follow-up I have got with these patients. Now, among these, what were the risks for the patient? One of the patient had a graft loss at 8.5 years. He had developed chronic allograft nephropathy and he had a IgA nephropathy recurrence. One patient had a recurrence of diabetic nephropathy much earlier because he was not controlling the diet at 1 year and 9 months, and we lost him because of the infection. 3 patients who had functioning graft, and for infections like UTI and LRTI, they were lost to follow-up and we lost them outside. This is elsewhere. One patient had a AMR of 7 months due to discontinuation of the medication and requiring the nephrectomy. So the rest of the 20 patients, the average creatinine at present, the rest of the 20 patients is around 1.3 milligrams per deciliter. And all the cadaveric transplants have normal renal functions and they are less than 1.2. None of the donors, all the donors are literally on follow-up with me. And I keep checking them at least once a year. And none of the donors have had any major problems. In the sense, the renal functions are normal. I also monitor the 24 hours urine protein. And they have been maintaining the normal state only. Now, when I put this KDPI analysis to these old age donors of my series, I found that the highest KDPI recorded was 64. The lowest was recorded as 14 years, who was a 60-year-old father. And average KDPI came to around 42. Now, 84-year-old donor had a KDPI of around 58. Now, now I told you one of my patients had a low GFR of around 75. So this was a 65-year-old mother and her KDPI came as 59. Now, with this put into, if I look at this, none of my patients had a KDPI which was more than the 85. Which is usually the cutoff for not accepting the donor. So I don't know what its role is in the Indian context. Now I'll show you a few photos of my patients. Now he is the recipient, she is the donor, she is 78. This lady is again 77 years old. This I did only 15 days back, father to son, he is a policeman. This man is again 79 years. This I am proposing to do next. Workup is already done. Can you believe she did 10 minutes of treadmill, and cardiologist had to clear her saying that she is fit. She is 80 years old. So we have put her for transplant now for the committee clearance. So recipient considerations, what we have to see. There are few things that I put forward, that in younger patients, we need to keep in mind that even if you give a kidney, that kidney is going to last around 20 to 12 years on the best. So what happens after that? So in that situations, if the patient has got grandparents as the donors, so even if they are old age, I prefer that I take grandparents first and keep the other parents or the spouse for the next set of transplant 10 years beyond. And other things that we have to take care so that the kidney lasts for long is you should avoid rejections in these patients. As you all know, it's an old age kidney, so the mass as such will be low. So to prevent that, I use induction, I use Graflon, just 100 milligrams one dose. I keep mycophenolate at 1.5 grams per day for first 6 months. Then I reduce it to 1 gram per day. Most important thing, we should not allow these grafts to have TAC toxicity. So here I tend to maintain post-transplant, that is immediate post-transplant TAC level of around 5 to 8 nanograms per ml. And I start my TAC at least -5, so that on the day of transplant, I have my TAC level, so that I am not surprised with the low or high level, creating problems for my graft. And at 3 months, I tend to keep it around 3 to 5 nanograms per ml. So this is my protocol for these old age donors. When it comes to donor considerations, see average GFR and the rate of GFR decline in Indians that we have to keep in mind, because we don't know about it. Probably that's why majority of, to tell you frankly, till now I have not rejected any of my patients whom I thought I'll take as an old age donor for the sake that the GFR was low by DDBS scan. Second thing, as I told earlier, documentation plays very important role. The whole of the family has to be taken into confidence. They have to be told again and again what is the risks involved and why you want to do it for the sake of the patient. And you have to be very highly aggressive for the lung management. You know, when they undergo nephrectomy, there is a possibility there may be tear in the pleura which has been sutured. And these old age patients, they are very sensitive to pain, and invariably they will look very normal, but they will not cough out. And they tend to develop orthostatic pneumonia. So that is where the problem starts. So from the day one post-transplant, I personally make sure that the patient is mobilized. And from the first day only, the patient comes into steam inhalation, mucomix nebulization, chest physiotherapy, and incentive spirometry. I know it is painful, but we use the drugs to reduce the pain. But unless the patient coughs out the orthostatic pneumonia, what they develop, that is the main killer for these old age donors, which we have seen in the earlier studies. So this is, we are very aggressive as far as the management of lung is concerned. And to the take home message, I would say that it's a good option to go for an old age donor. And one thing is because all these donors are the related donors. So immunologically, they are better than the deceased donor transplant. Outcomes are acceptable when you compare it to deceased donor transplant, where they have to wait for 5 years and still the outcome is not great. The donor workup may become expensive or extensive because you may require the angiogram to be done. For evaluation for the malignancies in that age is very important. And many of the times, you know, when if there is impaired glucose tolerance and all, you may have to do a renal biopsy to see if there are changes, though we don't do it for all our patients. Post-operatively, I told you it should be the vigilant care and immunosuppression modification, as I told you, to avoid rejection and minimize the CNI toxicity, and use of induction to reduce any chances of rejection in a very small dose. That is what I use. Thank you. Anything is there, I'll be able to answer.
Sanjay, I think you have covered the topic very well, and it's, in my opinion also, I think we cannot reject any donor based only on age. Even though our actual cutoff, when they come and ask me what is the ideal age, we say 18 to 65. but we do take people who are up to 80, 84. I think we should, it's not the chronological age. I think that's important. And you are talking about the consent form, that is also very important. And I think you have covered most of the aspects. And your point is very valid about a 20-year-old fellow getting from a grandfather so that he has a chance of getting another transplant with the father or mother. I think that's a valid point. In fact, polycystic kidney, I have the same problem. One person told me that he is not taking the kidney from his wife because the child has got polycystic kidney. So he said 20 years down the line, my wife will be late. I will go for somebody else as a donor. So this is something which is not taught in textbook, but it's a very practical suggestion which you have given. Dr. Chacko, sir?
Yeah, Sanjay, thank you very much for actually covering that topic very well, and especially for sharing your own experience with the older donors. And I think that is compatible with what the rest of the world also feels now, that generally age per se should not be the criteria on which somebody should, or you should not, you can expect good results even with an older donor. And what we really need to watch out for are the comorbidities which may cause early graft dysfunction or graft loss. So thank you very much for covering that very nicely. And are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, Sanjay, it is a very nice and you are very daring, I should tell, and your approach to these donors were very aggressive. I have a couple of questions. One is this GFR, when you are seeing for the donors. So you already mentioned during your talk, because what is the this thing in our Indian population. So when you measure the split GFR, do you see the normalized GFR or the absolute GFR? What do you see?
It is normalized to the body surface area.
Most often our absolute GFR will come very, very low, actually, especially even some of the individuals, especially from villages who come, actually, they look, when you ask their age, they tell 50, but they look like 60 or 70, and their absolute GFR is very low. So how do you manage, and what do you, when you are counseling the patient, recipient, what do you tell them?
No, see, basically the recipient, no, they are looking out for a transplant. So they are very happy if I tell them I'll take your old age donor, but it doesn't start there or it doesn't end there. See, we have to tell them in detail, any patient who comes as a donor and a recipient, the whole family has to be sitting in front of you when you are trying to do the counseling. There are 2-3 points I want to add. You have to explain every risk that is involved, including the risk of death of the donor. See, many of the times we don't declare that to that. Whatever data we have now, it is at least one death every 3,500 operation is what is the norm or what has been recorded. So I just tell them, definitely the risk for donation from an old age donor is higher than the risk from a conventional donor. So, but it has not been validated. But again, one thing I put forward is, if the patient develops appendicitis tomorrow, will you not operate that patient? It's an emergency. So the risk that is involved in that operation, where it is an emergency and the patient is having infection, is much higher compared to the risk when you have totally evaluated the donor.
Yeah.
So these are few points, and there will be hundreds of questions which will be asked. So you should take the whole family into confidence. I usually say that the day I do the counseling, all those who are supposed to sign the affidavits, that is as per the family tree, everyone should be available on that day. And when you are taking it...
Sanjay, the fact that you have done so many old age donors, that itself, because they are actually will be promoting others.
Yeah, that is what is happening.
When they see some other donor was donated at the age of 80 and at 95 still going strong, that will be an incentive. I think that makes getting the initial pool of older donors doing well. I think that will make a lot of difference in getting more donors, I think.
And another point you have to tell there definitely is, what is the average life expectancy of the India? So when you are taking old age. So when you take that the average life expectancy is around 75 years, and you have a donor who is old enough. So
donor already 80 years, that means he's crossed this thing, correct? It's bonus.
In your experience, this older donors and younger recipients, because both are risk factors for increased rejection. So, what was your risk of rejection?
To
And
tell you
modify
frankly,
your immunosuppression protocol. So, and
yeah.
also you told in your talk that about the CNI toxicity. Have any patients received everolimus in your
No. Everolimus I have not used for any of my patients till now, except for one patient where he had a rejection.
Kaposi's sarcoma you can use. Otherwise, no.
See, to tell you frankly, I told you my protocol. I start my TAC at 0.1 mg per kg body weight and rounded off to the lower limit, not to the higher limit. And I started -5. The idea is very simple. Many of the times I had seen that when I was starting one day before and you give 0.1 or 0.15, they don't attain the level and you develop the rejection.
That is why I think your induction is good to have that way.
Yeah, and one is that. And the other thing is you are not overshooting your immunosuppression also. Many other times you find that it's very high. And again, that creates problem to the patient. So, and second thing is nowadays, since I started using ATG in a very small dose, I use Graflon just 100 milligrams. Whether it is cadaver, whether it is my related, they want to take the injection, or spousal. I use only 100 milligrams of Graflon. And since the day I started using it, I sleep happily for next 1 week. I have not had any rejections till now. So that is the advantage. And the rest of the protocol is steroid is same as what everyone is using. But I keep my TAC very low. I keep it 5 to 8 for the first 3 months. And within 2 or 3 months, I reduce it down to 3 to 5 range. But I keep, initially I used to keep around 1 gram of mycophenolate per day. But now what happens, as I am tapering down the TAC very fast, whenever I reduce the dose of TAC, I increase the dose of mycophenolate. That is, patient will be on 1 gram. Suppose I see the levels are little higher, I reduce the dose of tacrolimus. Immediately, I will increase it to 3 times a day. Wait for around 4 weeks. And 4 weeks, I find that the creat has settled down and the TAC is okay. Then I bring it back to 1 gram per day. So in the end, everyone will come back to 1 gram per day on a long run within the first 3 to 6 months.
Good strategy. Sir, anything else?
Is this -5 is your regular protocol? You are telling the TAC we are using day -5. Is that regular protocol for everyone or?
Only old age donors.
Majority, except cadaver, I can't do that, but majority will have -5.
So you are living, all living donors, you are using -5? Yeah,
-5.
The CMC protocol, CMC also, the Chacko sir also, the CMC also using similar protocol, day -5? I'm not very sure. I heard about it.
What is that, Ravi? Sorry.
Depends.
Tacrolimus, starting tacrolimus day -5. Is that the CMC protocol?
I really don't have the current protocol, but I think what I got a response from them is that I think they're not routinely using induction, but I think for all diseased donors and poorly matched donors, they are using ATG in preference to basileximab as induction. And the combination is what is generally now, I think, accepted everywhere, TAC, MMF, and steroids.
When do they start the TAC? That's the question. In a live donor, when do you start? Because I start 2 days prior, and most people either 2 or 1 day prior they start in the live donor. What is your protocol, sir? Live donor. You start how many days before the transplant?
About 72 hours before.
Okay, that's 3 days. Yes. Okay. So roughly, so.
But
I think.
You don't on the
voice is blocking out, sir.
I think we will.
Protocol is day 0 we are starting. We never had day minus at all. Okay. So most of the transplant day 0 we start with the evening urine output is good. Then we found that some ATN minus 3 days, minus 4 days because the graft is are not good.
Okay, now I think we will, I think we are quite late. I think we would stop here from our side. Thank you, Sanjay. And thank you, sir, for sharing with me. Thanks. We'll go to the next session. I request the MCure people to take over. Thank you.
I think that's the last talk.
Thank you, sir, very much for this wonderful talk. And I once again thank all the faculty members for sharing your vast experience in this field of kidney transplantation and making us enlightened about how things can be taken forward, sir.